The morning alarm echoed through the halls of Galactic Nursery Station, a massive space facility floating in the dark void near Kepler 440C. Commander Maya Torres walked down the clean white corridors, checking on the young beings under her care. Children from 12 different species lived here, safe from the wars that raged across their home worlds. Maya stopped at the observation window of the main nursery. Inside, a small blue creature with crystal wings played with blocks alongside a furry bear-like child. These were the offspring of powerful alien races, sent here because their parents trusted humans to keep them safe. Commander Torres, to the docking bay came the voice over the intercom. "We have an unscheduled arrival." Maya frowned. No ships were expected today. She made her way to the docking bay, where Dr. Finn Kowalski was already waiting. The tall, thin doctor looked worried as he stared at the massive ship that had just attached to their station. "That's a Crimson Claw vessel," Finn whispered. "What are they doing here?" Maya knew about the Crimson Claw species. They were the most feared predators in the galaxy. Standing over 8 feet tall with razor-sharp claws and teeth like daggers, they had destroyed entire civilizations. Their red scales could deflect most weapons, and their strength was legendary. No one challenged the Crimson Claw and lived. The airlock opened with a loud hiss. Heavy footsteps echoed as a massive figure entered the docking bay. Vexter was even larger than Maya had imagined. His red scales gleamed under the station lights, and his yellow eyes glowed like burning suns. Every muscle in his body spoke of deadly power. Behind him walked 2 smaller Crimson Claw warriors, their claws clicking on the metal floor. The station's security team reached for their weapons, but Maya held up her hand to stop them. "Welcome to Nursery Station," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I am Commander Torres. How can we help you?" Vextar looked down at her. For a moment, Maya thought he might attack. Instead, something unexpected happened. The great predator's shoulders sagged, and his fierce expression softened. Human Commander Vextar's voice was deep and rough, like grinding stone. "I come not as a warrior, but as a father." Maya blinked in surprise. Dr. Kowalski stepped forward, his medical scanner in hand, but Vextar ignored him. "My world burns," Vextar continued. "The Void Swarm has come to our system. They do not want our territory or our resources. They want our young. They feed on the minds of children." Maya had heard whispers about the Void Swarm. They were creatures of pure hunger, consuming the consciousness of young beings across the galaxy. Entire species had vanished when the swarm found their nursery worlds. "The swarm cannot be fought with claws or weapons," Vextar said. "They are made of shadow and hunger. My people are strong, but we cannot protect our offspring from this enemy." One of the smaller warriors stepped forward, carrying a metal container. Inside was a single egg, about the size of a human head, with dark red spots across its surface. "This is my son," Vextar said, his voice breaking slightly. "He will hatch in 3 days. I ask you, human, to protect him." Maya stared at the egg. Around the docking bay, her security team looked shocked. Dr. Kowalski's mouth hung open. The idea of the galaxy's most dangerous predator asking humans for help seemed impossible. "Why us?" Maya asked. "Your people are far stronger than humans. Why not protect him yourself?" "Because," Vextar said, "strength of body means nothing against the Void Swarm. They fear only one thing in this galaxy. They fear human hearts." Maya didn't understand. Humans were one of the weakest species physically. They had no natural weapons, no thick armor, no special powers. Most aliens saw them as soft and fragile. "The swarm feeds on fear, anger, and loneliness," Vextar explained. "These emotions make young minds easy to consume. But humans do something strange. You care for children that are not your own. You form bonds with beings that are nothing like you. This confuses the swarm. It cannot understand why you would die for creatures that share no blood with you." Dr. Kowalski stepped closer to examine the egg. "The neural patterns are already developing," he said. "This little one will be incredibly powerful when he hatches. His name will be Kresh," Vextar said. "In our language it means fierce protector. I pray he will live long enough to earn that name." Maya looked at the egg, then at the desperate father before her. She had never seen a Crimson Claw show fear before. It made her realize how serious this threat must be. "What about the other species here?" Maya asked. "If we accept your son, we put all the children at risk. The swarm is coming whether you take my egg or not," Vextar replied. "My scouts report their ships are already in nearby systems. They have sensed the young minds gathered here. This station will be attacked within days." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The nursery station was home to 43 young aliens from across the galaxy. Their parents had sent them here believing they would be safe. Our defenses are strong, Maya said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Your weapons will not stop them, Vextar warned. The swarm does not fight with ships or soldiers. They invade mines directly. They turn children against their protectors. They make the young hungry for their own kind. Dr. Kowalski was scanning the egg with his medical equipment. Commander, this hatchling's brain patterns are unlike anything I've seen. If the swarm can corrupt something this powerful, they would have a weapon that could destroy entire worlds. Vextar finished. That is why I beg you, human, save my son. Save all the children here. You are their only hope. Maya looked around the docking bay. Her security chief, Captain Rico Valdez, had arrived and was listening to everything. The young ethereal being, called Nira, floated nearby, her translucent body glowing with curiosity. If we accept your son, Maya said slowly, what guarantee do we have that you won't attack us later? The Crimson Claw and humans have never been allies. Vextar did something that shocked everyone present. He knelt down, placing his massive, clawed hands on the floor in front of Maya. I give you my life oath, he said. From this day forward, any human who protects my son is pack family to the Crimson Claw. We will defend you as we defend our own blood. Maya had never heard of a Crimson Claw giving a life oath to another species. It was the most sacred promise their kind could make. She looked at the egg again. Inside was a young life that had done nothing wrong, a child who deserved a chance to grow up, just like all the others under her care. Bring him to Medical Bay 3, Maya said finally. Dr. Kowalski will prepare a proper incubation chamber. Vextar's eyes filled with something Maya had never expected to see from a Crimson Claw. Tears. Thank you, he whispered. May your gods protect you all. You will need their strength for what is coming. As the warriors carefully carried the egg away, Maya noticed something troubling. The long-range scanners in the docking bay were picking up strange readings from the edge of the system. Something was coming. Something dark and hungry. The Void Swarm had found them. The alarm bells rang through Nursery Station as Maya Torres rushed to the command center. The screens showed dozens of dark shapes moving at the edge of their solar system. The Void Swarm had arrived faster than anyone expected. How long do we have? Maya asked Captain Rico Valdez, who had just arrived with 3 human ships. 6 hours, maybe less, Rico replied, studying the sensor data. They're not moving like normal ships. They seem to be drifting, searching for something. Dr. Finn Kowalski burst into the command center, his face pale with worry. Commander, we have a problem. The alien children are having nightmares, all of them, at the same time. Maya followed Finn to the main nursery area. What she saw made her heart race. The young aliens were huddled together, crying and shaking. Nira, the small ethereal being, was glowing brighter than usual, her body flickering like a broken light. They're inside our heads, whispered Zara, a young spiketail whose parents were fierce warriors. The dark voices keep calling to us. Maya knelt down beside the frightened children. What are they saying? They want us to come outside, said a small crystal-born named Pip. They say they have better games to play. Maya's blood went cold. The Void Swarm was already trying to corrupt the children's minds from light years away. She activated her communicator. All human staff, report to the nursery immediately. We're starting Protocol Guardians. Elder Thax, an ancient crystal being, who served as the station's advisor, floated over to Maya. His body was made of living diamond, and he had seen thousands of years of galactic history. Commander Tokus Thax said in his deep echoing voice, "What is this Protocol Guardian? I've never heard of such a defense." "Because we just invented it," Maya replied. She turned to address her human crew members as they gathered around the frightened alien children. "Listen carefully," Maya said. "The Void Swarm feeds on negative emotions, fear, anger, loneliness. But there's something they can't understand or digest: human love and protection." Dr. Kowalski looked confused. "What do you mean?" "We're going to surround each child with human emotional bonds," Maya explained. "We're going to make them part of our families, not just our responsibility." Captain Valdez shook his head. "Maya, these are alien species. Some of them are natural predators. How can we form family bonds with creatures we barely understand?" Maya smiled for the first time since the crisis began, the same way humans always have, through stories, songs, and play. Over the next 2 hours, something amazing happened. The human staff began sitting with the alien children, reading them Earth stories about brave heroes and magical adventures. They taught them simple human songs like "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" and "Row, Row, Row Your Boat." At first the alien children were confused. Zara, the young spiketail, didn't understand why humans would waste time with made-up stories. when there was real danger approaching. Why do you tell us about princes and dragons? She asked Maya. They are not real. Because Maya said, brushing Zara's spiky hair gently. Stories teach us how to be brave. They show us that even small, weak creatures can defeat monsters if they have courage and friends to help them. The crystal-born child, Pip, was fascinated by the human songs. His crystalline body began to hum along, creating beautiful musical tones that made the other children smile. Most surprising of all was what happened with Kresh's egg. Dr. Kowalski had placed it in a special incubation chamber, but now several human staff members took turns sitting beside it, talking to the unborn Crimson Claw as if he were already part of their family. "Hello, little Kresh," said Nurse Angela Roberts, a kind woman with gray hair. "Your daddy loves you very much. He brought you here because he wants you to be safe. We're going to take care of you until you're big and strong." Elder Thax watched all of this with growing amazement. "Commander Torres, something remarkable is happening. The children's brain patterns are changing. The fear responses are decreasing." Maya nodded. "Human emotional bonds create what we call psychic white noise. When we truly care for someone, our minds generate protective energy that masks their mental signature." "You mean the Void Swarm can't find them?" Captain Valdez asked. "Exactly. They're looking for scared, lonely young minds. But these children aren't alone anymore. They're surrounded by humans who would die to protect them." As if to prove Maya's point, young Nira suddenly stopped flickering. Her translucent body became steady and bright. She floated over to Maya and wrapped her ghostly arms around the human woman's neck. "The dark voices are quieter now," Nira whispered. "They sound confused." Captain Valdez received a message on his communicator. "Commander, my ships are in position, but I have to ask, why did you order us to spread out in random patterns around the system? Shouldn't we form a defensive line around the station?" Maya smiled mysteriously. "Trust me, Rico. Humans don't always fight the way other species expect." Meanwhile, on his command ship at the edge of the system, Vexter was watching the human actions with growing confusion. His warrior's mind couldn't understand why the humans were wasting time on stories and songs when they should be preparing weapons. "The humans have gone mad," growled his second-in-command, a fierce female named Jaktar. "They're teaching our young to sing instead of fight." But Vextar was beginning to see something different. On his ship's sensors, he could detect the void swarms, search patterns. The dark creatures were moving back and forth across the system, clearly frustrated. They knew young minds were nearby, but they couldn't pinpoint their location. "The humans are hiding our children," Vextar realized, "but not with shields or cloaking devices. They're hiding them with love." Back on the station, Dr. Kowalski made an important discovery. "Commander, I've been studying the brain scans of our human staff while they interact with the alien children. Something incredible is happening." "What is it?" Maya asked. "Our people are actually sharing their neural patterns with the children. When Angela sits with Kresh's egg and talks to him, her brain waves synchronize with his developing consciousness. When you sing to Zara, your emotional patterns overlay hers." Elder Thax's crystalline body brightened with understanding. "You are creating a protective network. Each child is surrounded by human consciousness." "But there's more," Dr. Kowalski continued. "The alien children are starting to think like humans. They're developing concepts they never had before, like protecting others even when it puts you in danger." Maya looked around the nursery. Zara was now helping comfort Pip, who was scared about the approaching danger. The young Spectre was using her natural strength to make the smaller crystal-born feel safe. They're learning to be guardians themselves. Maya realized. Suddenly, the station's communication system crackled to life. A cold, empty voice filled the air, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "Humans of the nursery station. We are the Void Swarm. We know you hide young minds from us. Give them to us, and we will make your deaths quick." Maya picked up the communicator. "This is Commander Torres. The children under our protection are our family now. If you want them, you'll have to go through us." The voice laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Foolish humans, you cannot hide them forever. We can feel their fear growing. Soon they will call to us themselves." The transmission ended, leaving the nursery in tense silence. Maya looked at her human crew members, all of whom were staying close to their adopted alien children. "How long can we maintain the emotional barriers?" Captain Valdez asked quietly. "As long as we need to," Maya replied firmly. But privately she wondered the same thing. The Void Swarm was getting closer, and she could see the strain on her people's faces. Maintaining such deep emotional connections with alien minds was exhausting. Worse, She had noticed something troubling. One of the children, a young spike-tail named Zara, had begun glowing with a faint, unnatural light. It was barely visible, but Maya's trained eye caught it. The void swarm had found a way through their defenses. Something was wrong with Zara, and Maya feared they were running out of time. The strange glow around Zara grew brighter as the hours passed. Maya Torres watched the young spike-tail through the medical bay window, her heart heavy with worry. Dr. Finn Kowalski was running every test he could think of, but the results made no sense. Her brain patterns are changing, Finn reported to Maya and Captain Rico Valdez. It's like something is rewriting her thoughts from the inside. Maya entered the medical bay where Zara lay on the examination table. The young alien's spiky skin was now glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "How do you feel, sweetheart?" Maya asked gently. Zara turned to look at her, but something was wrong with her eyes. They were cloudy, unfocused, as if she was looking at something far away. "I feel hungry," Zara said in a voice that didn't sound quite like her own. "So very hungry." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had read the reports about void swarm infections. The hunger was always the first sign. Outside the medical bay, Elder Thax floated anxiously near the door. His crystalline body was darker than usual, reflecting his worry. "Commander Tohis," Thax said in his deep voice. "The other children are asking about Zara. They can sense something is wrong." Maya looked through the window at the main nursery area. The other young aliens were huddled together, looking scared and confused. Nearer, the small, ethereal being kept floating toward the medical bay as if drawn by some invisible force. "Keep them away from here," Maya ordered. "If Zara is infected, she might spread it to the others." Lieutenant Ben Hughes, the station's communications officer, hurried over to Maya. He was a young man with kind eyes and a gentle manner that made him popular with the alien children. "Commander," Ben said, "I've been monitoring the void swarm ships. They've stopped searching. They're just sitting there at the edge of the system, waiting." "Waiting for what?" Captain Valdez asked. Maya already knew the answer. "They're waiting for their beacon to guide them in." She looked back at Zara, whose glow was getting steadily brighter. The young spiketail was becoming a signal tower, calling. The void swarmed directly to the station. Dr. Kowalski came out of the medical bay, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Maya, I think I know what happened. The swarm managed to plant some kind of psychic seed in her mind before we established the emotional barriers. It's been growing slowly, feeding on her natural predator instincts." "Can we remove it?" Maya asked. "Maybe," Finn said uncertainly. "But it would require direct mental contact with the infected area. Someone would have to link their consciousness with hers and try to pull the infection out manually." Captain Valdez shook his head. "That sounds incredibly dangerous." "It is," Finn admitted. "The person making the connection could be infected themselves, or worse, the swarm could use the link to invade their mind and spread to others." Maya was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the station. Lieutenant Hughes ran to the nearest communication panel. "Commander," he called out, "the swarm ships are moving. They're heading straight for us." Through the station's main viewing window, Maya could see the dark shapes approaching. They didn't look like normal spaceships. Instead, they resembled massive shadows with tentacles that writhed through space. "How long until they reach us?" Maya asked. 20 minutes, maybe less," Hughes replied. Maya made a decision that would change everything. She walked back into the medical bay where Zara was lying. The young alien's glow was now so bright it hurt to look at directly. "I'm going to try the mental link," Maya announced. "Commander, no," Dr. Kowalski protested. "We don't know what will that happen. If we don't try, we lose everyone," Maya replied. "Ben, I need you to help me." Lieutenant Hughes looked surprised. "Me? Commander, I'm just a communications officer." "You're the best at connecting with the children," Maya said. "They trust you. If anyone can maintain a safe mental link, it's you." Hughes swallowed nervously but nodded. "What do I need to do?" Dr. Kowalski quickly explained the procedure. Hughes would need to use a special neural interface headset to connect his mind with Zara's. Maya would guide him through the process, helping him find and isolate the void swarm infection. As they prepared the equipment, something unexpected happened. The other alien children began gathering outside the medical bay. They pressed their faces against the windows, watching with worried expressions. "They want to help," Elder Thax observed. "The bonds you humans created work both ways. The children feel protective of each other now." Hughes put on the neural interface headset and lay down on the bed next to Zara. The equipment hummed to life, and his eyes closed as his consciousness reached out toward the infected child. "I can see her thoughts," Hughes whispered. She's so scared the infection is like a dark cloud wrapped around her mind. Maya monitored the brain activity readings on Dr. Kowalski's equipment. She could see Hughes's neural patterns overlapping with Zara's, creating a complex web of shared consciousness. "There's something else here," Hughes said, his voice strained. "Something big and hungry. It's looking at me." Suddenly Zara's eyes snapped open. But it wasn't Zara looking out of them anymore. The voice that came from her mouth was cold and empty, like the void between stars. "Human," the void swarm spoke through Zara, "you have made a mistake. Now we can see into your mind as well." Hughes gasped in pain, his body trembling on the medical bed. Maya could see on the monitors that the infection was trying to spread to him through their mental link. "We know your plan now," the swarm continued, using Zara's voice. "You think you can hide the young ones behind walls of love and protection, but love makes them taste even sweeter to us." Maya felt sick. The swarm wasn't just feeding on fear and loneliness, it was learning to consume positive emotions too. "You gathered all these young minds in one place," the swarm taunted. "The children of the galaxy's most dangerous species, all together like a feast prepared just for us. Did you really think you could protect them?" Hughes was fighting hard to maintain the connection while resisting the infection. Sweat poured down his face as he struggled against the dark presence in Zara's mind. "I can feel them all," Hughes said through gritted teeth. "There are thousands of swarm entities out there. They've been planning this for years, herding the most powerful young minds to this one location." Maya realized with horror that they had walked into a trap. The void swarm hadn't just randomly found the nursery station. They had been guiding events, perhaps for decades, to gather all these special children in one place. "Ben, you need to break the connection," Dr. Kowalski urged. "The infection is spreading to you." But Hughes shook his head. "I can see something else. The human fleet's positioning isn't random at all. Captain Valdez has been setting up some kind of network." Captain Valdez, who had been monitoring the approaching swarm ships, suddenly looked up with surprise. "How does he know about that?" Valdez asked. "That information is classified. Through the mental link, Hughes was accessing not just Zara's thoughts, but somehow connecting to the broader network of minds around the station. The emotional bonds the humans had created with the alien children had formed something larger. A web of consciousness that included everyone on the station. "The fleet positions are amplification points," Hughes realized. "You're planning to broadcast something across the entire system." "Ben, get out of there now," Maya ordered, seeing that the infection was spreading rapidly through the mental link. But it was too late. Hughes screamed as dark energy flowed through the connection. The void swarm's influence reached into his mind, and suddenly he wasn't fighting the infection anymore. He was becoming part of it. Zara sat up on the medical bed, her eyes now glowing with the same unnatural light. But worse, Hughes was beginning to glow too. The infection had jumped to a human host. "Now we understand," both Zara and Hughes said in unison, their voices echoing with the swarm's collective consciousness. "Now we can spread to all the other children." The infected pair stood up and began walking toward the door of the medical bay. Maya and Dr. Kowalski backed away, but there was nowhere to run. Outside the medical bay, the other alien children were pressed against the windows, unaware of the danger approaching them. Maya Torres watched in horror as Zara and Lieutenant Ben Hughes moved toward the nursery area. Their eyes glowed with the same terrible light, and they walked in perfect sync, like puppets controlled by the same master. "All human staff, emergency protocol now," Maya shouted into her communicator. "Form protective circles around the children. Do not let the infected ones touch anyone." The human crew members rushed to obey, but Maya knew they were running out of time. Through the station's windows, she could see the void swarm ships getting closer. Dark tentacles reached out from the shadow-like vessels, probing the station's shields. Dr. Finn Kowalski grabbed Maya's arm. "Commander, if the infection spreads to all the children, we won't just lose the station. Those young minds will become weapons the swarm can use to attack their homeworlds." Maya understood. Each child on the station came from a different species. If the swarm corrupted them and sent them home, they could infect entire civilizations from within. In the main nursery area, chaos was breaking out. The infected Zara and Hughes had reached the other children, who were crying and trying to hide behind the human staff members. "Come play with us," Zara said in her hollow, swarm-controlled voice. "We have such wonderful games to show you." Nira, the small ethereal being, floated away from the approaching infected pair. Her translucent body flickered with fear. "They smell wrong," Nira whispered to Nurse Angela Roberts, who was holding the frightened child close. "They smell like empty space." Hughes reached out toward Pip, the young crystal-born. but Maintenance Chief Tom Bradley stepped between them. "Stay back," Tom warned, though his voice shook with fear. Hughes smiled, but it wasn't his smile anymore. "Tom, you know me. I'm your friend. I just want to help little Pip learn some new songs." Maya realized they needed a different strategy. The infected humans were using their established relationships with the children to get close to them. "All staff, listen carefully," Maya announced. "Do not trust anything the infected ones say. They are not our people anymore." But even as she spoke, Maya saw the terrible truth. More human staff members were beginning to show signs of infection. The dark light was spreading through the emotional bonds they had created with the alien children. Elder Thax floated over to Maya, his crystalline body dim with worry. "Commander Taurus, the infection is using your own protection network against you. The deeper the emotional bonds, the faster it spreads." Maya felt despair creeping into her heart. Their greatest strength was becoming their greatest weakness. That's when Captain Rico Valdez's voice crackled over the communication system from his ship outside the station. "Maya, we're starting the human storm now. Get everyone to the center of the station and hold on tight." Maya didn't understand what Rico meant, but she trusted him. "Everyone to the main assembly hall," she ordered. "Bring the children, but stay away from anyone showing signs of infection." As the uninfected humans and alien children gathered in the assembly hall, Maya could see the Void Swarm ships had reached the station's outer shields. Dark energy was already eating through their defenses. "What's the human storm?" Dr. Kowalski asked Maya before she could answer. The station's speakers came alive with sound. But it wasn't an alarm or announcement, it was music. Human music. First came the gentle melody of Amazing Grace, sung by a woman's voice. Then children's lullabies, folk songs, and classical symphonies. The music seemed to come from everywhere, at once, filling the station with human emotion and memory. Rico's broadcasting human consciousness across the entire system, Maya realized. Not just thoughts, but feelings, memories, experiences. The effect was immediate and powerful. The infected humans in Zara suddenly stopped moving. They stood frozen, their glowing eyes flickering as the flood of human emotion overwhelmed the Void Swarm's control. Outside the station, something amazing was happening. Admiral Rosa Martinez's fleet had arrived, but they weren't firing weapons at the swarm ships. Instead, each human vessel was broadcasting memories, dreams, and emotions into space itself. The memories weren't random. They were specifically chosen human experiences. A mother singing to her baby, soldiers protecting civilians they had never met, teachers sacrificing their own safety for their students, parents adopting children from other countries and cultures. The Void Swarm ships began to writhe and twist in space, their dark tentacles pulling back from the station. The collective consciousness that controlled them was being overwhelmed by concepts it couldn't understand or digest. "Why are you doing this?" The swarm's voice echoed through the station's communication system, sounding confused and angry. "Why do you protect beings that are not your offspring? Why do you die for creatures that cannot benefit your species?" Maya picked up the communicator. "Because that's what humans do. We choose our families. We protect those who need protection, even if it costs us everything." In the assembly hall, something wonderful was happening. The alien children were fighting back against the infection in their own way. They had learned human concepts of love and protection, and now they were using those concepts as weapons. Little Pip, the crystal-born child, began to sing one of the human lullabies he had learned. His crystalline body amplified the sound, creating harmonies that seemed to drive back the darkness. Nira, the ethereal being, wrapped her ghostly arms around the other children, sharing the warm feeling of safety she had learned from the humans. Even more surprising was what happened with Kresh's egg. The unborn Crimson Claw was responding to the human storm from inside his shell. His developing consciousness was learning to fight before he was even born. "The children are creating their own protection network," Dr. Kowalski observed in amazement. "They're using human emotional patterns, but making them their own." The infected humans were beginning to recover. The human storm was burning the Void Swarm's influence out of their minds, though the process looked painful. Hughes collapsed to his knees, holding his head and groaning. But the victory was short-lived. The Void Swarm ships were adapting to the human storm, learning to filter out the overwhelming emotions. Worse, they were beginning to turn the human memories against themselves. "We see now," the swarm's voice returned, stronger than before. "You care so deeply for these young ones. Your love makes you weak. Watch as we consume them slowly, one by one, while you feel every moment of their fear." Maya felt her heart racing as she realized the swarm's new strategy. They were going to use humanity's protective instincts as torture. making the humans watch helplessly as the children were corrupted. The dark ships pressed closer to the station, and this time their tentacles pierced through the shields entirely. Shadow-like creatures began materializing inside the station itself, moving toward the assembly hall where the children were gathered. The human storm isn't enough, Captain Valdez reported from his ship. They're adapting too quickly. Maya looked around the assembly hall at the frightened faces of the alien children and her exhausted human crew. They had given everything they had, but it wasn't enough to stop the void swarm. That's when she received an unexpected message on her personal communicator. It was from Vextar, the Crimson Claw father who had brought them Kresh's egg. Human, Maya. Vextar's voice was filled with rage and determination. My mate Jaktar comes with our war fleet. We have seen what you have done for our son. Now we fight for you. Through the station's windows, Maya could see massive ships dropping out of hyperspace. But these weren't just Crimson Claw vessels. Ships from dozens of predator species were arriving, all the parents whose children were protected in the nursery station. The galaxy's most dangerous predators were coming to fight alongside humanity, but Maya wondered if even that would be enough. The void swarm entities were already inside the station, reaching toward the children with hungry shadow tentacles. The shadow creatures flowed into the assembly hall like liquid darkness, reaching toward the huddled children with hungry tentacles. Maya Torres stepped forward, placing herself between the void swarm entities and the young aliens she had sworn to protect. Stay behind me, Maya called to her human crew and the alien children, but something unexpected happened. Little Pip, the crystal-born child, floated past Maya and faced the approaching shadows. His crystalline body began to glow, not with the sickly light of infection, but with warm, golden radiance. No, Pip said in his tiny voice. You cannot have my family. The word family hit Maya like a shock. These alien children weren't just calling the humans their protectors anymore. They truly saw them as family. Nira, the young ethereal being, joined Pip. Her translucent form blazed with protective energy. These are our humans, she declared. We choose them one by one. The other alien children stepped forward. They formed a circle around the human adults, reversing the roles completely. Now the young aliens were protecting their human guardians. The shadow creatures stopped moving. Through the station's communication system, the void swarm's collective voice sounded confused and frustrated. This is impossible, the swarm said. Young minds cannot resist us. Fear and hunger always win. Zara, who had been infected earlier but was now fighting off the swarm's control, looked up at the shadow creatures with her own eyes again. You don't understand, Zara said, her voice growing stronger. We learned something new from the humans. We learned that protecting others makes you stronger, not weaker. Dr. Finn Kowalski was monitoring the brain activity readings of all the children. What he saw amazed him. Commander Tohi's Finn called out. The children's neural patterns are synchronizing, but not with each other. They're synchronizing with us. They're creating a hybrid consciousness that includes both human and alien minds. Maya understood. The emotional bonds they had formed weren't just protecting the children from the void swarm. They were creating something entirely new, a merged form of consciousness that combined human protective instincts with alien, natural abilities. The shadow creatures tried to advance again, but they couldn't move forward. The hybrid consciousness was generating a barrier they couldn't cross or understand. Outside the station, the battle was intensifying. Vextar's war fleet had engaged the void swarm ships, but their weapons were having little effect on the shadow vessels. Humans, Vextar's voice came over the communication system. Our claws and fangs cannot hurt these creatures. How do we fight enemies made of hunger itself? Captain Rico Valdez had an idea. Don't fight them, he broadcast to all the predator species ships. Join the human storm. Add your own protective memories to ours. At first, the alien predators didn't understand. Their cultures were built around strength and dominance, not the gentle emotions humans were broadcasting. But then Jaktar, Vextar's mate, made a surprising choice. She began broadcasting her own memories, not of conquest or hunting, but of the fierce love she felt for her unborn son Kresh. Other predator parents followed her example. Soon the space around the station was filled with memories from dozens of species, a spike-tail mother carrying her injured child to safety, a crystal-born father teaching his offspring to sing, a shadow-winged parent shielding their young from a storm. The void swarm ships began to shake violently. Their collective consciousness was being overwhelmed by concepts they had never encountered before. Predator species choosing love over violence, protection over conquest. Inside the station, something even more remarkable was happening. Crash's egg began to crack. The young Crimson Claw was ready to hatch, and he was being born into a new kind of consciousness. Maya knelt beside the egg as it split open. A small red creature emerged, no bigger than a human baby with tiny claws and golden eyes. But instead of the natural aggression of his species, baby Crash looked around with curiosity and reached toward Maya with trust. "Hello, little one," Maya whispered, gently picking up the newborn Crimson Claw. "Welcome to your family." The moment Crash was born into the hybrid consciousness, something changed throughout the entire system. The shadow creatures in the assembly hall suddenly screamed a sound like tearing metal and began to dissolve. "What is happening?" the Void Swarm's collective voice demanded. But now it sounded weak and frightened. Elder Thax, the ancient crystal being, provided the answer. "You have encountered something that should not exist," he told the swarm. "A consciousness that chooses connection over consumption, protection over predation. You cannot feed on it because it feeds itself through giving." The prime voice of the Void Swarm manifested directly in the assembly hall, a massive shadow with burning red eyes that filled half the room. "We are eternal hunger," the prime voice roared. "We have consumed 1,000 civilizations. We will not be defeated by this impossible alliance." But as the prime voice tried to devour the hybrid consciousness, something went wrong. Instead of consuming it, the swarm began to experience something it had never felt before, the desire to nurture and protect rather than devour. The feedback loop was devastating to creatures built only for consumption. The Void Swarm's hive mind began to collapse as it was forced to experience emotions it couldn't process. One by one, the shadow ships outside the station began to implode. The entities that had terrorized the galaxy for eons were being destroyed. By their first taste of selfless love, the prime voice made one last desperate attempt to save itself. It reached toward baby Crash, thinking that surely a newborn Redditor would be vulnerable to corruption. But Crash was surrounded by his new family, humans and aliens alike, all willing to die to protect him. The prime voice's hunger met an unbreakable wall of protective love and simply ... stopped. "Impossible," the prime voice whispered as it began to fade away. "How can beings choose to sacrifice themselves for others? How can this make them stronger?" Maya looked up at the dissolving shadow. "Because that's what family does," she said simply. The prime voice gave one final scream and vanished completely. Throughout the system, the last of the Void Swarm ships crumbled into dust. In the sudden silence that followed, Ambassador Yuki Tanaka's voice came over the communication system. "Nursery Station, this is Ambassador Tanaka of the Galactic Council. I'm arriving with a diplomatic fleet. We need to talk." An hour later, Ambassador Tanaka stood in the assembly hall looking amazed at the scene before her. Human adults and alien children sat together in mixed groups, still maintaining the protective bonds that had saved them all. "Commander Torgi's," Ambassador Tanaka said, "I have to tell you the truth. The Galactic Council knew about the Void Swarm's plan. We allowed it to happen because we needed to test something." Maya felt anger rising in her chest. "You used the children as bait." "Not bait," Ambassador Tanaka replied quickly. "A test. The Council has been searching for a species capable of becoming guardians, protectors of all young life in the galaxy. We needed to know if humans could truly put the welfare of alien children above their own survival." Elder Thax's crystalline body brightened with understanding. The test was not just about protecting the children. It was about creating something new, a form of consciousness that could defend against threats like the Void Swarm. Ambassador Tanaka nodded. "Exactly. And you've done more than pass the test. You've created a new model for galactic civilization." Over the following weeks, something unprecedented happened. The predator species whose children had been saved began forming alliances with humanity. Vexta publicly declared humans to be Pakin family members worthy of protection. Other species followed. The Crystalborn offered humans advanced technology. The Ethereals shared their knowledge of consciousness and mental abilities. The Spiketails provided military protection for human colonies. But most importantly, the hybrid consciousness created at the nursery station began to spread. Other facilities were established where human guardians worked alongside alien children, creating bonds that transcended species barriers. Maya stood in the renovated nursery, watching as young Crash played with Pip and Nera the Crimson Claw. Hatchling was growing fast, but instead of developing the aggressive instincts of his species, he was learning human concepts of sharing and cooperation. Commander Dr. Kowalski said, joining Maya at the observation window. "We're getting requests from over 50 species to establish guardian facilities in their systems." Maya smiled. "And we'll build them. Every child in the galaxy deserves to grow up safe, regardless of what species they come from. Outside the station, the mixed fleet of human and alien ships worked together, establishing the first haven system, a place where any species could send their young for protection. During times of crisis, the galaxy had learned something important. Sometimes the greatest strength doesn't come from claws or weapons or advanced technology. Sometimes it comes from the simple willingness to love and protect those who cannot protect themselves. And in a universe full of predators and prey that made humanity something entirely new, the guardians of the future itself